This is SOUQ Business Landscape.
Nigeria had reportedly lost 2.31 trillion naira over the past 12 years due to electricity that could have been produced but went unused because of greed and operational limitations. It's a report that both the Punch newspaper and gathered the data provided by Association of Power Generation Companies of Nigeria and analyzed by the Punch newspaper that covers a specific period of time between 2013 and 2025. It highlights the cumulative value of electricity that was technically available for generation but could not be evacuated through the national grid or delivered to users. According to the reports, the losses underscored long-standing challenges in Nigeria's electricity sector, including inadequate grid infrastructure, operational inefficiencies, and the inability of distribution networks to absorb available power. The association figures highlight the urgent need for investment in grid expansion and modernization to harness the country's full power generation potential and reduce financial waste in the sector. Olumide, we've heard and seen times without number that the transmission company of Nigeria had complained some time ago about their inability, most especially when criticisms raised their voice that, as a nation of over 200 million population, South Africa is just barely between 45 and 60 million people.
Yes.
And they have about 40,000 or 60,000 megawatts of electricity. And Nigeria, 200 million people, the giant of Africa, we seem not to have enough. In fact, sometimes they come out telling us we have 15.
Yes.
Sometimes we're told we have more than 15, 17, or 20. But as a result of some infrastructural gap that's currently a challenge in the industry, we are unable to transmit or to distribute the 15,000 megawatts that we said to have. And this sometimes it's as if this could be one of the reasons why we're experiencing grid collapse for the umpteenth time. And the questions are coming forward. If we are looking towards industrialization as a nation, and we do not have the required electricity that will become the power base for industries to run, to operate, to function, and to thrive, where are we then going? Because that's not only the disadvantage, it's obvious that the discos and even transmission, they are losing money. In the space of 12 years, 2.31 trillion naira.
For any country to function or to go into industrialization, we need to sort out power. Now, power was deregulated into three parts. We have the GenCos, the people generating, and then we have the people transmitting, and of course, the distributors. So now, power is being generated. I think we're about, according to reports, we're about 11,000 to 17,000 gigawatts. That's what we generate. But much of that is not going into the end consumer. By the end consumer, you're getting 5,000 megawatts to 6,000 megawatts. So along the line, so what we are generating is not what we are actually transmitting. So normally when you generate, you feed to the national grid. And TCN, Transmission Company of Nigeria, they're the ones handling that. And they will now, of course, send to discos, who will now get it to the end users. So along the line, something happens. We are not being able to actually distribute what we want. We are, according to report, what I'm seeing here, we need about 60 gigawatts for Nigeria.
60 gigawatts.
6 gigawatts, yes, that's what we need, or estimated. But we are trying to move towards 42 gigawatts to 60 gigawatts. And until we decide to upgrade our system, we will continue to have grid collapse. We'll continue to have a whole lot of things. The infrastructure is just decaying. Even GenCos right now, or discos, they are actually in debt. So many times they've come out to say, oh, the federal government, we need this, we need that, we need that, we need that. But even in as much as Nigeria has now said that states generate, distribute, do this, states start to generate. How many states are actually generating? Lagos is doing. Lagos is always doing. Let's move Lagos. I don't always like to talk about Lagos. What about other states in the southwest, in the southeast, in the north? And should we also just focus on just national grid? What about alternative power? What about wind power, turbine? We have so much solar. We should not just only concentrate on just one particular thing. So that is why I think that's what led to that initiative of state generate your own power.
Yeah.
So you are not limited to just generating electricity. You can generate alternative energy, however you want to do it, so that you can feed your community. Yes, you will feed certain to the national grid. Then the remaining you can feed. So now, when you start generating, when you have alternative source of power, you have solar, you have this, you have that, you have a whole lot to feed your community. And also, if you're willing, you can also subsidize. So much of it is just wasted power. We're just in a situation whereby power is just wasted. What we are generating, we can't even feed it. You said that, I think South Africa did about almost 90 in a year. 90 to 100,000 gigawatt in a year. And we are still doing maybe 20,000 in a year or thereabout. So it's a whole lot, and I think until we start to take power really seriously. Now, I'm not going to blame any. I'm not going to point fingers at the federal government, because they've now said, state, go and generate yours. So the onus lies on the state now. Start generating. Lagos is generating fine, but what about other states? And how do they see power? Do they see it as something that a state can actually use to industrialize, expand? Because we keep talking about, why is it that it is Lagos that is all these investors are coming to? Why is it Lagos that they are doing this, they are doing that? If investors don't see the potential to come into your state, they don't see power, something as, how would I call it, social amenity, something as minute as power that is not well managed in your state, investors will not come. Foreign investors, it discourages foreign investors. Even grid collapse discourages investors. Also, people are now talking about power being expensive. We still have to tackle that. But let's even remove that, because if you want stable power, of course, you might have to pay more for stable power. So let me just stop there.
Okay. I thought you were going to jump into the band A or band B.
I'll do that later.
Issue, because what we are seeing here, there's weak transmission infrastructure. There is also distribution networks that are not functioning properly, and also there are poor coordination across the electricity value chain. So it's a source of concern. What's your take on it?
Just like you mentioned, we have structural inefficiencies, and this goes back to the grid bottleneck of what we are facing right now. There's a loss. That means we're generating, and when you're generating, it means that there has to be a receiver. Just like Olumide, broke the three sectors of how power is being generated, consumed, and all that. Yeah. So if we're generating this much and we are still losing, it means that there's an issue with the, should I say, the institution that gives the proper infrastructure to be able to distribute and consume this light as it should be consumed enough. And not to delve so much, because Olumide said so much as the first speaker. You would see that in losing so much of this, you begin to give investors doubts. Now, just like the last time I was here, I mentioned what is the focus of the government to bring in investors into the country, because you need investors. Now, once they see this lack of efficiency, they see, exactly. They begin to doubt you. They begin to see situations like, we know how many companies are about to close up because of lack of light or power, to say. And if you are generating this much and we are not seeing the effect and you're losing, then revenue starts to suffer. And once revenue suffers that much, you then start to do you start going for scraps of how to, then there's so much burden on the people. So we need to look inward, how to make this, infrastructures properly built enough to contain this power you're producing to be able to be distributed properly. So that's
so for me, why doesn't it appear that this is a space where if we see some level of inefficiency, it's also an avenue for
business opportunity.
Business opportunity for investors to also jump into the frame of things and to put in their money. Is it that the capital requirement for businesses to jump in, or the ease of doing business in that industry seem to be very, very challenging. Because recently in the 2025 Energy Summit here in Nigeria, we heard where the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, was saying that we have about 500,000 meters. That's talking about meter coverage. And we do not have, we've only installed about 100,000 because there's lack of technical manpower to install the rest. I don't know if that's tenable. It's tenable. However, I'm looking at the market, the opportunities that is there presented for the private investors. It looks like private individuals are not taking advantage of it, or is it, well, we know it's capital intensive, but what could be the way out? Because this should attract investors to want to pick up the gauntlet and do something.
Discos are in so much depth, even the federal government is owning the discos. There's a whole lot going on. And in a particular state in the East, the government is saying they're going to even reduce the cost of electricity tariff.
I think it was even reduced, and the discos went protesting.
So how do you help, how do they make ends meet? How do they, run their calculations? Now, you talked about metering. I remember during the former administration, the administration of late President Muhammadu Buhari, former Vice President Oshibajo ordered that all households should be metered. He made that statement that all households should be metered. Until today, how many households are metered? It's even a cartel, because now you go to the discos and pay that, okay, they will even tell you that they don't have meters available. Yeah. So you have to pay in advance. And of course, you have to grease palms, because you're not just going to pay for the meter. You have to pay some amount so that when the stock comes in, they would remember that, oh, prepaid. Okay, they will now call pre, okay, we have some meters available, we're bringing it to your place. That's one thing there. So how do we even start to get, then again, I remember where I was staying before, we didn't have meter. So we're running on postpaid, and they were giving us outrageous estimated bills. At a point, we paid 400,000 naira. It was really, really, it was heartbreaking. And when we went to the discos, we met one of the marketers who didn't want to, be known and all that. And she said that they actually have a target every month that they must meet. Once they meet that target, whatever is left comes to them. Hence,
when they mean them individually or organization-wise?
Organization-wise.
Organization-wise.
Yes. So now, hence the estimated bill.
And the target was given to them by the government.
Well, I don't even know who. So now, the reason what led to that was because we were given one bill that we were not supposed to be given, and we went to make complaint that this bill, we sorted it out, and she said, oh, according to her, now, once it is printed, it can be reversed. I don't see logic in that. There's an error in the billing. We've shown it to you. What you are saying, it is gone. So it's a whole lot of things that is going on. And yes, it creates a business opportunities for the investors. But if an investor is going to come in, I mean, look at Adeleke. He has a gas plant, I think, around Oshun, but waiting to be connected. So it's not as if we don't have investors coming. We have investors coming in, but how many of their plants are even being connected? Then what is now? It's not even about generating. It's not about transmitting.
It's transmitting.
It is distributing.
Distribution.
Yes.
But both transmission and distribution seem to be having challenges.
Yes, so it's not even about generating. We've sorted that. It's now about transmitting and distributing. So how can you distribute when you don't have meters? How can you distribute when a whole community share one meter, one transformer rather, and once that transformer blows, maybe in a month or thereabout, they will not have power.
Okay, but is it also a possibility that the number or the amount of electricity that we have, or that we have generated and that we have not been able, I know you are not an electricity expert, but that we have not been able to evacuate or transmit, storing them in the system, or when they are being withheld back in the system, if they can in and of themselves become some form of harm to the distributing or the transmission infrastructure that we currently have on ground, even though it's not enough, if that in itself could be a possible reason. Well, because they need to tell us what we need to do to be able to efficiently make use of this power.
So like I said earlier, it's based on infrastructure. When you have the capacity, I'll give you a very basic response to this. You have a phone, and there's a memory card inside, 4 gig, 6 gig. You know, when it gets to the limits, your phone starts to shut down, starts to glitch. That's what happens. You are producing more than you can hold or withhold. So once the system holding on to the power is filled, and you don't have, like Olumide said, you don't have the meters, to get these things sent out, then it breaks down, it shuts down. This is what happens. And that's why we have to, of course, modernize our grids. We have to go all out to ensure that we have the 21st century standard of grids. So that when we produce, now we've done so well to produce, but we don't have enough capacity to store. And once we can't store properly, then we can't transmit. Okay.